Hello YouTube, Ronan Kazi here again. Have a playthrough of the Manhunt for Chirpy. Starting off here at the Fallen Crane. I'm using a shield build, my tank build. And it's okay tanky. It's for this, I'm soloing this, so it's okay because the mobs aren't as, tough as when you're in a group tanking. It's a little harder to tank, like in Legendary with this build. I've seen better builds than that, but for what I'm doing here, this is a great build. So I'm just assaulting the control point. And one of the things, like you'll notice, you'll see my armor going up and down. That's because my backpack has perfect adrenaline rush. And that allows me to increase armor as I get near more enemies. So that's a good thing. And it's predictable because I know if I rush in somewhere how much extra armor I'm going to get. It stacks up to 3 times. You gain 23% bonus armor for 5 seconds when you're within 10 meters of an enemy. So that's one of the key parts of this build. That's the one thing where I'm just getting more armor, so I don't have to do a lot of healing. The second thing you might notice that I use is I use Ridgeway's chest piece, and I have that red, so I'm getting an extra 15% damage. Whenever you're a tank, you have unless you're running Heartbreaker, you have a issue with damage. So I use Ridgeway's Pride, and the main reason I'm using that is I'm using Bleeding Edge. Shooting enemies within 15 meters applies bleed to the target. Repair 3 to 48% of your armor per second for every enemy that is bleeding within 15 meters. Repair strength per number of bleeding enemies. It goes 1 to 5 different enemies. It can go up to 3% to 48%. So those are the 2 mechanics that I'm using in this tanking. The third item I have in my build here is Liberty Pistol. Excuse me, this is going to be a long video, so I'll probably have to clear my throat a bunch, sorry. The Liberty Pistol grants plus 2% damage, stacks up to 30 times. So that's number 1, to increase your damage. Number 2, headshots consume all stacks, repairing your shield for 3% per stack. So this is something that I'm constantly monitoring. So in general, when I'm fighting non-technical mobs, I'm always aiming for the head, just out of habit, because you never know when you're gonna need it. And when I'm going against a dog or Johnny 5, I'm just pumping them into their body as fast as I can to build up those stacks. Now this is the bad part of this build. If you're facing a bunch of dogs, or really Johnny 5s, you really have no way to get your health back. So that's kind of a negative. That's where some people might use that mask piece that gives you heal after you get hit a million times, and it gives you a healing circle. The problem I found with that is that heal usually happens and then I'm moving on. If I was a stationary tank, then it would be okay. So I've cleared the first half, and now they're going to be incoming. So again, I want to be more mobile for me, my play style. So this kind of setup works good. The final thing, I guess if I said final before, I'm wrong. I'm running Technician, and I'm using the Artificer Hive. And the Artificer Hive is what continually heals my shield. So it's redundant a little bit with the Liberty, but the Liberty, you know, again, if you're fighting mechanical or technical mobs, you're just not gonna get headshots to repair your shield. Of course, in the build, I have some other things. I have a D&H mask. D&H, it's a punch drunk. D&H gives you plus 20% pistol damage, and the punch drunk gives you 20% headshot damage. On every piece, I have 12% protection from elites, and I even have that on the other pieces I have are just improvised pieces, which allow you to slot that. So, in theory, against yellows, I have, let's see how much. I have 72% protection from elites. Sometimes I run this in the survival, but then I don't have the shield benefits, and then you get over 80%. I think it caps out at 80. So in this build, you then have a priority of targets. You have one on what their job is, right? So grenadiers, the guys that create drones, guys or gals that create drones, and healers. Whoever's closest to me in that kind of configuration. I'll pick whatever one's closest first. Number two is I want to get yellows, or excuse me, I want to get reds and purples out as fast as possible. Because again, I got 72% damage reduction against yellows. I don't have that against reds and purples. And really, reds are okay because you can kill reds pretty fast. It's the purples. So like a purple grenadier, you know, I will move in a purpose on a purple person. Also because I have this bleed build. I have a AK-47 that has the talent that does 25% more damage on bleeds. It's not a lot, again, I'm not a damage dealer, but it's just trying to maximize every little bit of damage you can get in these builds. And that's sadist, 20% weapon damage. So I'm almost done here in Fallen Cranes. That's kind of the build. That's kind of the dynamics I'm using to do this. Normally on most of my pieces, when I'm just building a tank build, I'm never going to out damage anyone. I try to roll pieces that have some type of built-in healing. So it will have, like, you know, armor regen, the 46 or 4900 armor regen. So on this build, on regen, I have, let's see, I'm going to try to look for it here real quick. And apparently I'm incompetent. And health regenerate, or dang it. Armor regeneration is 18,000, which is horrible. So normally in a different build, maybe I'll get a piece that has that, you know, 1% armor. So it gives you maybe 17,000 more, so you get over 30,000. Okay, so I'm off here to the demolition site. So on this manhunt, you have 4 control points, a public execution, and a bounty, and then you get to go to the main bounty. Demolitions are pretty easy in this fact, is that the mobs are all concentrated in one area. So again, with the tank and with the shield, you know, positioning is critical because when they're behind you, they're going to smoke you. And the shield I'm using is the deflector shield. And the deflector shield, what I try to do is use a Johnny 5 or a dog that's doing a machine gun or an AR. I try to use them as additional damage, so I won't kill them right away. I try to deflect their damage into the other mobs I'm fighting. It's free damage, is why I take the deflector. Deflector has a little more health. In my current build, the deflector has about 7.4 million. The Crusader only has 4.6. So the trade-off is, if I use Crusader, I can do more damage. I just prefer using the deflector. It's for whatever reason. I kind of like the idea where I'm doing this additional damage. I have a Calibre shotgun for no reason, but I have that extra. During the middle of this, a world boss kind of comes in. So I stop taking over the control point and I go right for the world boss. You can't have this dog at my back. When you're fighting the rifle dogs, there's a critical point right there that you can see it's a little bit red on their head. If you hit that, you can stun them, breaks it, and then you can just keep doing that and lock them down. So again, I'm checking the radar all the time. Sometimes I was in a group earlier with a different tune and we're doing the same stuff on Heroic and they had a bunch of directives. It's okay, you just got to pay more attention. And this is what I'm talking about where it's easy. I have all the mobs coming out. You can watch my armor coming up and down as I get closer to the mobs. One of the great things about being tactician or technician is you get that 10% damage on their skills. Damage to their skills. So I think at this point, I'm like, why is that guy to the south? And I think I turn around here and I see him as I get up here. I think I kill this guy and then I try to look downrange what's going on. And that's where I think I see the world boss now. And I'm like, oh crap. So the control point and all the mobs you're facing in the Manhunt are all Black Tusk. So you saw they blinded me. Sometimes they'll do some skills that will disrupt your skills. And I don't want to fight another group of mobs that, set me on fire on top of that, because those are two variables. I can deal with one variable because, they blind me. I can still blind fire. But if I'm getting set on fire and I'm losing my shield and I'm being disrupted, it's not worth it. So I go ahead and take out this boss, and then I take out a few of his minions too, just so I can concentrate on the Black Tusk. The other thing that's going to happen is the spawn for demolition is back on this side of the map, so I'm just going to go over the spawn then. Smoke that guy. And I'm back. I got a couple more guys. So really, for my build and my gameplay, you can see that deflector shield is a great additive. I've done it enough. One of the things about builds is that, I see other people's builds, but maybe it's not my play style, so it's hard for me to do the build. The builds look wonderful. I watch the videos. You see all the damage. And I play with builds all the time, so I'm always trying to find a unique build that will work for me. And for a long time, I just kind of, I had that mask. I forget what it's called. Let me see if I have one in my inventory real quick. The Catharsis. Catharsis is great, but it just, one good thing, taking damage builds stacks to a cap of 30. Each stack grants 1% damage, weapon damage increase. Taking damage at max stacks triggers a purge, and you get 5% max armor for 10 seconds to all allies in the cloud. So that's okay, and I've played with that, but I just always walk out of that cloud constantly. And so if you have to have, you have a little less armor, but as you know, you're not, that extra 100,000 armor is not saving you from anything. To put it in perspective, in my crappy build, my AK does 100,000. That's, you're right, 20 shots, 17 shots, and then I've lost that armor. If a guy puts a clip in me, it doesn't matter. But if I get this bleed, I'm always getting some health back. So that's my rationale for that. Okay, so now I'm off to MLK. MLK is a tough control point at times. Right behind me to the left is that territory control. And sometimes if the mobs push from MLK, they force you back and then you kind of get that to bleed over. I had thought about getting that territory control first. I don't think they came into the battle, but actually I think they did come into the battle, but I took care of them. I played this earlier, and with all those directives, there was a dog that was shooting EMP bombs. So staying under this area kind of prevented that. So I'm not a tank that's going to be able to just go against 20 people and just live. Even on single player, I have to play a little bit smart. So I have to kind of make sure that they're always in front of me. I'm looking at my shield. It's giving me an indicator where people are at. I'm looking at the radar. I don't like that people are behind me, so when I see my health going down, I'm usually like, well, what's going on? Again, I'm not too smart because it keeps going down. So I cut off one of the areas I think that go right next to this bookcase, and then I'm going to look behind me and try to figure out what's going on. Apparently I don't. About to die. Right now I'm doing a mental calculation. Is the backpack gonna give me enough armor to keep me alive? And one thing, there's my dog. One thing that I found is, see that closet over there? That's a good place to camp out in, to camp spawn. And so I'm deciding whether I should go over there or not. Here, I'm showing you I have Ridgeway. Because I don't know why, sorry. And eventually I just say, I'm going to have to go in there. My shield, I'm waiting for the artificer to heal my shield. It pops up. The other thing, remember, I got to get close enough to bleed everyone. I don't really want to kill the Johnny 5 yet, so I go over to the closet. And I'm gauging my health. I look okay. My health's okay. I'm not going to get any heals, but I'm going to get some heals when I put the bleeds on them. So again, you see me just using Johnny 5, putting out decent damage. Because it looks like 144,000. I killed the old Johnny 5. Now, while I was over on that other side, the boss, you know, the leader got out of here, so now I got to go track him down.
Hostiles guarding location nearby. Detecting additional hostile contacts.
Again, you're watching your shield. See those little arrows it has? It tells you where you're getting hit from. You know, you want to keep that in front of you. You want to kind of herd these guys around. When you have a shield in your tank, I think that's kind of your responsibility to shape the battlefield. Is to kind of shape where the enemy's going to fight, where you push them into your DPS or your skills, or, you know, whatever kind of setup your team has. In this case, I'm just trying to go to one side of the map, turn around, and push everyone, compress everyone into the other map. A favorable spawn would be if they came out right to my left, so I don't have to, and there they are. But the idea is you don't want to have to keep pushing back and forth, wasting all that time. You just want to be where they're coming out. I get more armor again, right? My build is I get more armor when I have more people around me, and they're going to shoot me, so they're going to bleed themselves. Again, I've gone toe-to-toe with these rifle dogs, and over time, they'll eventually start doing enough damage where they impact my armor and not my shield. And so then I'm in a bad situation. So I don't try to take them down immediately, but I don't get any value from using their shots. Now the machine guns, the AR dogs, I'm going to show you later, they're awesome because they just kill themselves. And really the Liberty, I played the Division 1 and I was a pistol guy. I mean, that X45, when it first came out, I just loved that pistol. It was great. And I used it for everything. And so I just was a pistol guy. So this is a preferred play style for this. Okay, so I did the public execution. I could do Red Dragon, but I have to go by this anyway, so I rush right in here. This is a cluster right here for a shield guy. It's okay at first, but people are trying to flank me. And you can look at the shield. I got, you know, everyone from everywhere. So I have this guy over on my left. And so in any of these builds, whether you're a tank or whatever, I mean, you obviously, you know, you want to keep them in one direction, and having people flank you is always bad. And I think that you need to address flanking enemies immediately. It just saves problems in the long run. If you're on Capital, on Legendary, people have a tendency to roll up the right side, and you'll have 3 or 4 people up there. And all that does is that pushes the mobs around to the left, so then they flank you, and so now they're, you know, the drones are coming in from the left, and they have a couple people coming in from the left, and you might have cover where you're only facing forward, you're protected forward, but not to the left. So you have got to think about that. DCU's another place. There's the one room, the garage. There's some barrels on the right. I always throw my turret up on the right, so it kind of keeps people from sneaking around right, because the tendency on DCU in the garage is for people to go along the left side, because there's a spawn out of the left side. And you have cover. So that's some of the kind of things you want to do about shaping a battlefield. Whether you're a tank or whether you're a DPS or whatever, you want to kind of, as you can, keep people in front of you, keep people, you know, from flanking you. And if they flank you or someone goes down, you usually address that kind of stuff immediately. And so when I'm getting near the end of one wave, I'm thinking about where are they spawning from, and where can I push, and where can I really make them pay, make their spawn pay. Now they spawn on the street down there. I don't care about the Johnny 5. If I kill all the people, Johnny 5 will just die. So it's dumb to fight Johnny 5s unless they're tearing your teammates up. And again, I stop the flankers. And they're on that porch. Again, I get the red first. And there are 2 bad guys up on that porch. There's a medic and a grenadier. So I want both of them. So I make sure I kill the reds. And then I'm going to go in with the yellow. And that bleed isn't so much that you can count on it to kill a guy. It's just extra damage. So that's the public execution.
Chirpy, I want you to take Lewis into custody and bring him to Fairview.
Do you want him to know he is in custody?
What do you mean?
I mean, I can bring him in,
And now on to Red Dragon.
or I can just bring you in.
I didn't cut from Red Dragon because it's just up the street here. Red Dragon can be tough because there's the dog again. This part's relatively easy assaulting it. They kind of leak out to the right a little bit. Again, just want you to consider how I'm pushing and where the enemy goes. So as I try to contain them on the left, it pushes them to the right, so then I got to go push them on the street. And imagine if you're in a group, you have to always consider that, like what's happening. The hard thing about camping Red Dragon is there's a spawn on the second floor that they can sometimes hop down from. And for whatever reason, it seemed like this one took longer. I don't know. I played this straight through. It was my second run of the day. I did one with my other character, my new character that I do some content with on this channel. And then I just did this solo. We had a bunch of people hopped on and off, and I got made the leader. So part of that other video, it would have been too many cuts, too different, and the directives were less than signed. So you can't be afraid to heal, but you also have to know when you can heal, when it's safe, because you gotta be in a place where you can go down and put on the bandages. You can't just heal in the middle of the street. Even though I got a nice build that's regenerating and I get armor with the enemy coming around, I always try to, if I think I'm having a problem, think later on I'm going to bandage under one of those windows. Sometimes the spawn for this is right, the door right next to where I am, so that's kind of what I'm hoping for. I'm trying to stay here so I'll get that boost in armor, and then I can turn around and just bleed them all as they're coming out. But there's a Johnny 5 making my life miserable in there. This part, it's good, Johnny 5. But you can see he's getting my health. This is the negative of this build. Right? No one's close enough. No one's close enough for me to bleed them, so I get health. And a Johnny 5's on me. So in this case, I have to take out the Johnny 5. And it just makes your life easier if you kill these healing pots, these healing drones, bots in the middle of I call the healing pots from my other MMO days. But the problem is, you saw I had to heal because I was just, that's a bad setup. So I'm near people again, so it's going to be easy. There's a guy up on the back of that bus that's really giving me the business, but I'm out of his line of sight. Again, you see I kind of did a J around them to push them all into a place. See, that's that spawn I'm talking about where they come in the top. You can't really camp that. It's hard to. You have to have your back to everyone. Sometimes you might think about it literally as shepherding, you know, the mobs around into the place. You know, you have a couple strays and you either got to get them back into the fold. And this is what I talked about earlier. You know, you don't want to have to run the whole length of the map to get stray mobs. This is why this Red Dragon's kind of tough. And when I played this, I was thinking about this part and another part. You know, why don't I use my AK? That's a good question. AK with 40 rounds, my AK, it's 4 million damage. In the pistol, it's 8 shots. Let's say it's 500 at a minimum, it's 3 million damage. So just comfortable with the pistol. The sighting for me is familiar. Looked out, they spawn behind me, I'm already there. So I'll push now. Apparently I didn't push. I'm sorry. I thought this is where I pushed them and then did a little curve around them. Maybe that's coming. That was a vial mask I picked up there. I didn't pick it up yet. But a vial drop. That's my other build. My main build is with a vial with some type of, you know, you're putting vial debuff on everyone. Whether you're using Scorpion or, you know, I use a jammer pulse. And those builds are fantastic because you're always putting pressure on the enemy. And a lot of this game with the mobs is how much pressure you're putting on the enemy. Here's what I want you to do. Go do a legendary DCU, start the mission, and then just fall back. They will rush you like crazy because you're not putting any pressure on them. So that's what you want to think about. And that jammer, let's say my jammer seeker build, I can always put ranged pressure on the enemy. And that kind of keeps them in place. So that's a good supportive build for 90%. I have a vial build video you can look at, but for 90% of the content, including legendary, that's a great build. It's a walk in the park. There's a couple caveats. Number one, it doesn't do a ton of single target damage. It does a ton of AoE damage. So you might have to go to a turret to get a single target, like a Chunga, something like that. Number two is, if you're in a group with people that are lower level that aren't putting out any DPS, you got to put DPS up. Again, it comes to this pressure thing. So those are cases where I'll switch my build to my DPS skill build. I did legendary. There's a guy did a video. I apologize, I don't know your name. He makes builds and then he runs a legendary in the that first phase. So I did the same thing, and I used this tank build. And I went in there. You go in, and once you get into the doorway, there's kind of a mechanic where the mobs will retreat if you go way deep in that doorway, that you go to the next level. That door's closed, but if you go where that ammo thing is, you can kind of fight from there. Now, it took forever, and I had to peek, and you kind of see, you know, when mobs would come, I'd get my stuff back up, and you know, I'd have to go out to shoot them to get the heals. But when I went in with that jammer pulse, I just knocked them down really fast. I stayed in there, and I had a turret and pulse, and I just pulsed everyone AoE, so I couldn't even see the mobs, and I'm burning them down. So there's some value for that. You can run it. It's on that build, the expertise on all that armor's level 16, so it's a little bit herkier armor build. The idea in that build is you have the fastest recharge time, so my jammer pulse is down to 13 seconds. So that's one. You need a high single target damage. That build's less than. The other place where it's less than is if you have another person with a another status effects guy. Vial works when there's no status effects on anyone. It will then put a status effect debuff on them. So if someone is pulsing already, you have to wait for that pulse to wear off, and then you can do your pulse. Now, if you guys were if you're in a group and you were on some type of game chat or Discord, and you could time it, it'd be perfect because you could they'd be under pressure constantly. But in reality, Vial lasts for 10 seconds. Okay, I'm gonna stop that. So I finished Grand Dragon, Red Dragon, sorry. And I'm gonna do the first bounty. This bounty, I don't know if everyone started this game, but it's that first little hotel you come out from Washington, D.C., and you you have a mission to go in there. So it's in there. I think there's a couple dogs on here. So I think I'm going to do fine. And as you heard me earlier, I'm like, okay, I'll take care of these 2 dogs. And over on my left, there's not a black tusk guy. So now I'm going to have to deal with them. He goes down relatively fast, but there's more of them. So I want to take care of them. So I might leave the dogs at a second. And again, I'm trying to shoot that breakable point. There's this other mob.
System restored.
Okay, so I took care of them. Just have a dog to do. I'm sure these dogs have a critical point. I just a weak point, but I don't remember where it's at. So I was hoping to find it. And you see with 30 shots, I'm doing 700k damage per shot, which is okay for the tank build. And this is gravy here, so this is what I'm hoping for. Small contained area where they can all shoot me and they can all put bleeds on themselves. Thank you very much. So that's where this build shines. And I know it sounds like a build video, but essentially what we've done are 4 control points. They stop a public execution. And now we're doing the first bounty. This is the last lead up to the final boss bounty. This indoor fight's relatively easy. Again, people are contained. On my other build when I was in here, I just started pulsing, and I was pulsing the enemies from 2 floors away, right? That's the benefit of that. You'll see this is a tough fight because I can't herd the enemies, so I gotta keep them off the top level. And you just kind of keep going in circles. Whereas the pulse, I'm just sitting in one spot and I'm pulsing and I'm killing these guys. But I told you one of the other weak spots on the pulse. If you're in a group with someone else doing status effects, and really if they're doing EMP, then you might as well just switch your build. I was in a legendary tidal basin yesterday, and there's a guy who was pulsing, and he was a skill build, so it was relatively fast, and he was just screwing up, right? I couldn't put my damage. That's how I'm putting damage to the group. So I switched my build to a tank build. He eventually got out of that build, and then I went to my pulse build because I'm purpose built to do that. And it's good, and we ended up beating tidal basin. That was a long, I don't know how to do tidal basin that well, so it took a while. And really, this is what I would suggest to everyone, is have 2 or 3 builds on you all the time. for example, that pulse build, once you get to the house room or the Senate room, once you get into the rotunda area, it's an automatic you're going to win because you can sit behind the wall and you can pulse all the enemies down. The problem is getting that first room in that wide open area, you can't hit everyone with the pulse. So in that wide open area, if you have a skilled DPS build, is great. And then when you get into closed spaces, you're going to use that EMP build. And so that's what I would tell you. You might have a tank build that would be great in closed spaces, but it's not going to be good. I see a lot of people, they'll be like level 11 watch, and they'll have the shield build where they have the shield and the gun, and then they'll have the revive hive. And it's worthless because you have so little armor at that point. You're just delaying, right? On all these other levels, even on heroic, it masks that you don't take cover. So when you aren't utilizing cover or you don't have a super strong build, then you get smoked constantly. And probably level 10, I started doing that skill build with the EMP on that alt I made. And I was just a healer. I stayed in cover, pulsed, and healed. And I've been in other groups where the level 10, less than level 100 person heals, and they can do legendaries fine all day long. It's if you're a DPS and you don't have any expertise on your armor and you don't stay in cover and you're relying on the shield to do the damage, it's just never going to work. Additionally, now that we're here, if you're a lower level watch level person and you're doing a legendary, please don't put on all those directives because you can't play with those directives. All you're going to do is get carried because you're not playing that legendary style anyways. Just makes it very difficult. Nothing wrong with directives. It makes the game much harder and more challenging, and it's great. But you get on that tidal basin with a bunch of directives, that's legendary, that's tough. And Manning Zoo, So those are good just on legendary. I'm sure when we all get better builds and everyone's level 20 expertise, they'll be a little bit easier. So now I'm getting the boss of this bounty. And I've just did a continuation of what I've done before. It's a rinse and repeat. You're going to push the mobs into a corner or into an area where they're going to shoot at you and they're going to put bleeds on themselves. Okay, so if you made it this far, now we're at the final. Now we're here to get Chirpy. So this morning when we went in and fought Chirpy, we stayed outside that main ballroom, and it was a slugfest. And I had that pulse build, and that was on my level 200 watch character, so it wasn't even my best character, but we did it. So it's in George Washington. And you'll see this is a little bit hard because they immediately try to flank me. You see I'm getting blinded. So I try to go in this corner and push everyone out of the corner and then fight my way back out of it. The idea is when I'm in half cover is better than no cover. And so I'm maneuvering to just get a point. Now you can see the indicators on my shield on the HUD. which tell me where the enemies are, and that's okay, but you can see they are just lighting me up. So I do a heal here. And again, you can see the fire with the focused fire is too much for this build. So again, I'm trying to push. I think I got control. There's my wife. Hello, wife. I'm recording.
I'll be back.
Okay, love you.
This is still going.
Thank you. So I'm pushing them again, and I'm gonna get ready to go downstairs here. I think I ought to kill a couple stragglers.
Okay. Nothing good.
Just trying to tell my wife that I'm recording. Sorry, everyone, but that's the good stuff. Okay, so kind of got control of it. Again, I'm going to leave the Johnny 5. There's one person left. If I kill that person, I don't have to fight with the Johnny 5. All right, so now we're heading downstairs. This fight's easy because it's all in front of me. I can peek my nose in, start everything. And there we have it. Normally dogs aren't that big of a deal. That dog with the spinning shooting, the reason you got to get him relatively quick, him or her, is that they will knock you out of cover, people that aren't spec for it, and then it will still shoot them. So it's for your teammates. You're really going to take care of that. You see, it doesn't do anything to me, but if you're in a team setting, you want to target that. Normally dogs are okay. If you think about Roosevelt Island, there's those two dogs that run back and forth in that first section. They really don't do anything, but they're big targets, and you should be targeting the grenadiers and the controllers with the drone. So again, this is pretty straightforward. You see at this point, you could solo this. I have this same similar build on my alternate tune. I think he has Bellstone backpack with the horse. It's not the best of that, but gives you 1% armor regen, which is fantastic. So it is a little more regen. And I think on this tune, I have I raised everything to like level 10 or 11, except for the DH piece. That's a new thing I started trying to do. What did I used to use there? Maybe I used the electronic piece in there because, yeah, I might have used an electronic piece. So the other thing to think about is your artificer scales off your skill level. So right now I have 5 blues and a red. I think before I had a yellow, a red, and 5 blues, which made my artificer stronger. This fight's tough, so they're all over the place. Again, in the morning when I was with the other group, with my other tune, sorry to keep saying that, we just fought back there behind that bar. And we just stayed there. It was pretty safe, and I just pulse, grenaded, and we got them down. So at this point in the fight, I'm looking at every area. I don't always do this, but like in this particular sequence of fights, I'm like, I should go to an area where I can fight better. Where I'm kind of protected and they got to come to me. So my idea is maybe back over here to the left, but I don't go over there. And what I decide is I'm going to fight over here. And with a pistol, special ammo is great because you're firing one shot at a time. Some of my builds, I'll have creeping death, which spreads it, so I'm like AoE and the status effect all over. But you don't run through, you have a lot of that special ammo. So if you're lighting in this build, if I get special ammo, let's say fire, and I'm already putting a bleed on them, then when I'm hitting them, I'm getting 2 dots on them, 2 damages over time. And think about when you're in a group, I'm in some groups, and they call out what's kind of happening. And those groups are really great. You have some people that sure have some experience in some of these kind of tactics, and they're great because they kind of know what to do naturally. And I'm not an expert by any means. But it helps in a case like this. And in general, if you're a lower level player or you're just, your shield level is low, if you stay in cover, you're going to pretty much win. Because you think about it, if you have a turret, that's always putting pressure out there. So that's one thing. A lot of people like drones. The flying drones are kind of sketchy. It's not bad if you have a turret. If you had a shield and a turret, I guess. I fought like that for a while. But this is what I'm going to tell you. If you're on a legendary and you're little, then you should maybe have something that's going to bolster your... A lot of those fights are DPS fights. It's not the mechanic like in other MMO RPG where you're going to wipe if you don't kill the thing in a certain amount of time. That's in a raid, right? They have those kind of mechanics. But it just makes it really difficult. You got to worry about healing yourself, then you got this guy that keeps going down or whatever. Even if you put out shock traps, again, shock traps shape the battlefield. That's another great skill that you can use. Hives are okay. And there's some really high DPS builds that have a shield and they just rock. But they're putting out tons of damage, so they're not taking a lot of damage. So really all of this is always an equation. I'm putting out X amount of damage, I'm receiving X amount of damage. Is my health bar going down faster than theirs? I need to take cover, or vice versa. Again, this fight seemed to me like it would never end. I don't know if it was at the end of all these, it's the boss fight, so it's tough. But I was over it, like at this point. I think Trig, what was it, last month we were fighting Trig, and Trig's final battle, they're on one side and you're on the other side. That's a pretty easy fight. All right, so this hallway fight, as you've seen this build and these other fights, this is going to be a perfect fight. And I thought about fighting here, but just two directions. I didn't like it. So I go, okay, this isn't good. You tell me you have a jammer, I'm coming right for you. I don't want that stupid jammer. So he pushes me. So here's the mistake, and it's the dumb AI. They don't know any better. So I'm like, oh, I'll just stay here. And I'm going to fight from this end. And so here's what's good about doing things different sometimes. I was like, okay, let me fight from this end. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And I get a surprise here in a second. Not the end of the game surprise, but I'm like, oh, this is going to be easy. And if you notice behind me, and I'm like, what? I think pilots always say that, trust your instruments, you know. I don't trust my radar. Then I'm like, oh, they're spawning behind me. So I can camp their spawn, which is what I want to do with this build. So let me back up a little bit. Sorry about that. And then I'm like, yep, it is happening. So if I played this again, and this dog will kill himself. So this is an AR dog. That down, get out of my way. He's red, so he's dead. Thank you. And that's what you want to do with this build. So if I fought this again, I'd run right up there, get on those stairs, push everyone in front of me, and we'd get through this part really fast. Now, the question is, how much more do the mobs scale when you have 4 versus 1? And so you'll see a lot of people that will take their build and they'll do a one-man legendary. That's okay, because the scaling's not with a 4. You take some of those builds into a 4. They're okay, but I don't think they're survivable. But I will practice doing that. I will see if I can go into one of these on legendary. I have taken this on legendary, like I told you. If I can get my tune into the right spot to get through there, the first level, you know, it's all day. It's my build that can spam the EMP. Okay, so here's the final battle with the boss. And so I've just had this experience. I'm thinking, where can I go where I'm going to just fight in a little room? And I could see if you had a group of 4 and you had turrets on both doors, turrets on the windows, and you'll see why in a second. So I have some knowledge, and once it happens, I'll tell you, I have some knowledge of what's going to happen. So I'm a little bit like, how am I going to weather this part? So I'm trying to smoke every controller I can. I'm worried about a spawn behind me out that door. On some versions of this map, they'll spawn out that door. This is the second time I'm playing it. Same day, so I'm not really sure about where all the spawns are. See, my health's down. I'd like to get those people. And I retreat. You see my shield. I'm waiting for my shield to be the artificer to get my shield back up.
Easy mark. Take him down.
You know, as I'm thinking about, maybe I'll re-roll that punch drunk, either roll it back to damage, 15% more damage, or maybe, or 15% more weapon damage, or maybe I'll roll it yellow, see if that helps this build. It's the only thing I can think about. I don't know, having the little extra armor, I don't know what the difference between that's 170 armor and the other piece is, it doesn't tell me to have to look. Oh, it's 80k. Again, 2 dogs. I'll have the one dog kill the other dog. Thank you. But I'm getting firebombed. So, you know those cleaners that have those drones that drop those incendiaries? Those are tough. So I'm weathering that okay. And that's why I'm saying this room might be a good place to fight if you could get up in here. But you have to pulse those things down. And I think when we were pulsing, my main goal is to pulse. We probably needed 2 pulsers because I think we just damaged it. I couldn't kill it with 1 pulse. So now at this point, I'm not in trouble, but I'm in trouble. Because I'm like, okay, I told you earlier I don't want fire and the black tusk stuff. So this is kind of starting to become a worst case scenario. So this is when I said, maybe I should call for backup. Because I'm getting firebombed and I'm getting Johnny 5'd. But again, you see I'm getting increased armor because there's more mobs near me, so it's going to be okay, I think. But really tired of the drones. and I'm in trouble. So now, kind of realizing right here, maybe I should call for backup. But I heal up, and I have to clear out one area of this. I don't have to die to do it, but I need to clear out one area. Okay, so I've cleared out this corner. I don't want to give away my altitude advantage, but you can see, I don't know how I'm alive now. Because I have no armor, my health is low. So I catch a little break, get rid of a Johnny 5 and his little repair boy. So I realize not everyone's left. Maybe I'm going to try to fight them down low now. And you can see they just light me up. Again, another spot where I don't know how I'm alive. And a fire. Okay, so I heal up. I got one med kit left. Ooh, look at that. And I'm going to really push. I'm going to bring it home, and I'm going to force my will on these guys. And they ripped me a new one. So I'm about to die again. I look up, kill the sniper. I'm deciding here, should I do another med kit? I do know this. That grenadier is going down. I don't care if I die. Well, I do care if I die, but I've had it with that guy. So this is the benefits of having regen, because you come up slowly. I don't have a lot of regen on this build. I think I have a little more weapon handling. So I don't know if that's good or bad. So at this point, I think I have it. I'm just going to use a weapon I'm comfortable with. Fits my game style. I have enough regen where I'm going to come up over time. That Johnny 5's not doing anything to me. The boss isn't firebombing me. So it's a wrap. So I want to thank you if you stayed this long. Video's about 80 minutes, a little over 80 minutes. Probably took me over about 90 minutes to record it, so it took about an hour and a half to play this. If you want to see the build, please leave me some comments. I'll do a build video later, but if you want it, I'll move it up in what I'm going to do. Appreciate all the people that are viewing. I have one person that is subscribed. I appreciate them. They're a fellow Division player. So I want to thank everyone again that watched this video, and enjoy.